Thank you. May I start again, Madam Speaker? Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's my pleasure to contribute to the debate on this important bill. Bill C-14 implements several important measures from the Fall Economic Statement, which highlighted the additional steps our government is taking to support Canadians and Canadian businesses during the second wave of the pandemic. This bill, in 7 parts, will provide much-needed economic support for Canadians. The measure includes increasing our supports to families with young children, helping students, investing in mental health resources, and improving long-term care system. It also makes important adjustments to the Borrowing Authority Act, the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, and the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy. In addition to the measures, it also proposes to deploy a 3-year stimulus package to jumpstart our recovery and to provide the fiscal support the Canadian economy needs to operate at its full capacity. Today, I would like to address these important measures and how they will truly support Canadians and Canadian businesses. Madam Speaker, we know that many families with young children have been struggling trying to find affordable childcare during the pandemic. For these families, we are introducing a temporary support of up to $1,200 for each child under the age of 6. This support will be provided to low and middle income families who are entitled to Canada Child Benefit. This would benefit more than 10,000 families in my riding of Richmond Hill. Will also help the students in our country. Madam Speaker, during this time, we've heard from many students who are burdened by student debt and are struggling to find work. We are committed to ensuring that this pandemic does not derail their futures. The bill will eliminate interest on repayment of federal portion of the Canada Student Loan and Canada Apprentice Loan for 2021-2022. This measure will bring $329.4 million of relief to up to 1.4 million Canadians. This, in average, amounts to $235 of interest saved potentially for each student. This is the money that can be used for textbooks, computers, and other necessary resources for our nation's students. As mentioned earlier, our government has a plan to help our nation's most vulnerable. Madam Speaker, the COVID-19 outbreak in long-term care homes have been tragic and completely unacceptable. The pandemic has further highlighted the need for significant improvements to the standard and care of our most vulnerable. Bill C-14 will invest in safe long-term care fund to help provinces and territories protect people in long-term care and support infection prevention and control. We are committing up to $1 billion in support, ensuring every resident in our long-term home system is supported. Madam Speaker, the COVID-19 Emergency Response Act passed on March 25, 2020, permitted the government to borrow to fund its response to the extraordinary circumstances from April 1st until September 30th, 2020. These borrowings are exempt from the overall borrowing limit as set out in the Act. A separate extraordinary borrowing report was tabled in Parliament on October 22nd, 2020 that provides detail of these amounts borrowed. The proposed measure in C-14 will increase the maximum borrowing amount from $1.168 trillion to $1.831 trillion to cover projected borrowing out to March 2024 and to include extraordinary borrowing made as a result of COVID-19. The new limit will allow the government to continue to support Canadian and businesses in my riding of Richmond Hill through the pandemic. As well, it will allow for necessary investment once the pandemic is over to power a robust, sustained recovery in job and growth through March of 2024. The action the government has taken and plans to take will help Canada come roaring back from the COVID-19 recession and prevent the long-term economic scarring that would weaken our post-pandemic recovery. Madam Speaker, the bill before us also authorizes payment to be made to Canada's 6 regional development agencies for the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. The government announced the $962 million Regional Relief and Recovery Fund on April 17 to help support those businesses unable to access other federal pandemic support programs. It provides the significant funding through Canada's regional development agencies. The government expanded the fund on October 2nd, bringing the total support to more than $1.5 billion. In COVID-19 context, the regional development agencies are playing a vital role in helping to bridge small and medium-sized businesses to better times. To date, the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund has protected over 102,000 jobs and supported over 14,700 businesses, including 8,500 clients in the rural areas and 5,100 women-owned businesses. As a next step, the fall economic statement proposed a top-up of $500 million on a cash base to regional development agencies and Community Future Network of Canada, bringing the total funding to over $2 billion in this fund. Finally, Madam Speaker, the bill proposes to amend the Income Tax Act to allow for Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy to recognize a rent payment as a qualifying rent expense when it comes due rather than only when it's paid, provided certain conditions are met. We are still in a situation where not all small businesses have the cash flow to pay their rent on the first of the month, with a reimbursement to come later. The new rent subsidy provides simple and easy to access rent and mortgage support for qualifying organizations affected by COVID-19. It is provided directly to the tenants while also providing support to property owners. In addition, under the lockdown support program, organizations that must shut down their doors or significantly restrict their activities under a public health order are eligible for a 25% top-up in addition to the base rent subsidy of up to 65% until December 19, 2020. Madam Speaker, and members of this House, this means hard-hit businesses in my riding of Richmond Hill will have had to shut down their doors due to provincial lockdowns are eligible to receive up to 90% support for rent and mortgage interest. To provide greater certainty to businesses and other organizations, the fall economic statement proposes to extend the current subsidy rent for additional 3 periods. This means that a maximum base subsidy rate of up to 65% and additional 25% for lockdown support would be available until March 13, 2021. The government will put in place regulation to affect this extension. Madam Speaker, these are important changes to the program and pieces of legislation which will allow the government to continue to provide direct support to Canadians so they can pay their rent and mortgage and feed their families. It also provides scalable support to businesses to help bridge them through the crisis and keep Canadians healthy, safe, and solvent. In closing, Madam Speaker, better days are coming. The government has a plan to get through the pandemic and recession and to recover strongly. We will take whatever it takes to support Canadians and get the economy firmly back on track. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions